5 things cheaters say when confronted, and what they really mean. You found the evidence. You've gathered the courage to confront him, and his response? It makes you feel crazy, guilty, or like you're the one who did something wrong. Here's what you need to understand. Cheaters have a playbook, and when caught, they all read from the same script. These 5 phrases are designed to do one thing: get you to back down and doubt yourself instead of holding them accountable. By the end of this video, you'll understand the 5 most common deflection tactics cheaters use, what they actually mean when decoded, and how to respond without falling for the manipulation. Response 1. You're being paranoid, insecure, or crazy. Let's start with the most common first response when you confront a cheater. You present evidence, or express a legitimate concern. Maybe you saw inappropriate texts. Maybe you noticed he's been distant and secretive. Maybe someone told you they saw him with another woman. You bring this to him, and instead of addressing what you're saying, his immediate response is about you. You're being paranoid. You're so insecure. You're acting crazy. You have trust issues. Notice what just happened there. You asked about his behavior, and he made the conversation about your mental state. He didn't address the texts. He didn't explain the distance. He didn't account for being seen with someone else. He attacked your perception instead. This is textbook gaslighting, and it's designed to make you question your own judgment, your own sanity, your own perception of reality. Because if he can make you doubt yourself, you'll stop asking questions. You'll stop investigating. You'll start thinking, maybe I am overreacting. Maybe I am seeing things that aren't there. Maybe my trust issues from the past are making me paranoid now. But here's what's really happening. He's deflecting. By making it about your mental state, he completely avoids accountability for his actual behavior. And this works on women especially well because we're socialized to avoid being seen as crazy, jealous, or insecure. Those labels terrify us. We'll do almost anything to avoid them, and he knows that. He's weaponizing your fear of those labels against you. Watch how he frames it. You have trust issues. Your ex really messed you up. You need therapy. He's taking legitimate concerns and pathologizing them as your personal baggage. This shifts all responsibility from his sketchy behavior to your supposed emotional problems. Even if you do have past trust issues, and many of us do, that doesn't make current red flags magically disappear or become invalid. Sarah experienced this exact manipulation. She found romantic texts between her boyfriend and a coworker. When she confronted him, he didn't explain the texts, he didn't apologize, he didn't even deny anything specific. Instead, he said, "You're being paranoid again. This is exactly why your last relationship failed. You can't trust anyone. You need to deal with your insecurity issues before you destroy this relationship too." And you know what Sarah did? She apologized. She apologized for looking at his phone. She apologized for not trusting him. She never got an explanation for the texts. 6 months later, she discovered he'd been having an affair with that coworker the entire time. Looking back, she realized something crucial. He never actually denied the affair. He just made her too afraid of seeming crazy to keep asking questions. Here's what he's really saying when he calls you paranoid. I need you to stop asking questions because I don't have good answers. What he's actually doing is creating an environment where questioning him becomes so uncomfortable, so risky to your self-image that you'll stop doing it. The goal is to make you more afraid of being called crazy than you are determined to get the truth. So here's what you do. Don't accept the deflection. Bring it right back to the issue. I'm not discussing my mental state. I'm asking you to explain these texts. Name the tactic directly. You're trying to make this about me being paranoid instead of you explaining your behavior. That's manipulation, and I'm not falling for it. Refuse to apologize for having concerns. Your concerns came from somewhere real. Actual evidence, actual behavioral changes, actual red flags. Don't let him make you feel wrong for noticing them. Trust yourself. If multiple signs pointed you to this confrontation, your instincts were right. Don't let him convince you they were wrong. And set a boundary. If you can't address my concerns without attacking my character, this conversation is over, and so is this relationship. Mean it, because a man who'd rather gaslight you than be honest with you is not a man worth keeping. Response 2. It's not what it looks like. You're misunderstanding. Now let's talk about what happens when you have concrete evidence, and he can't just call you crazy. You have screenshots, you have photos, you have timestamps. Maybe you have an eyewitness who saw him with someone else. The evidence is right there in front of you both. And his response? It's not what it looks like. You're misunderstanding the situation. Let me explain the context. What he's doing here is brilliant and infuriating at the same time. He's implying that with the right context, the damning evidence you're holding becomes completely innocent. He's asking you to trust his explanation over your own eyes, over your own judgment, over actual proof. He claims you saw something out of context or you don't understand the full story. And when he provides this magical context, notice what happens. It's either completely unverifiable or it still doesn't actually explain the evidence. You saw a text where he called another woman baby. He says it's an inside joke from work and you're taking it out of context. But he can't explain why his coworker is texting him at midnight. He can't explain why his coworker is texting him at midnight. He can't explain why he hid her name in his contacts.
One woman told me she saw this exact text. When she questioned the baby nickname, her husband said it was a running joke with a colleague, and she was misunderstanding workplace banter. She wanted to believe him, but the context he provided, a workplace joke, didn't explain the intimacy of the texts, the late-night timing, or why he'd never mentioned this person before. She accepted his explanation anyway because she wanted it to be true. A year later, she discovered a full-blown affair had been going on the entire time. Watch for the partial truth strategy too. He admits to a small part of what you've discovered while denying the larger truth. Yes, I was texting her, but we're just friends. When the texts are clearly romantic. Yes, we had lunch, but it was just a work thing. When it was at a romantic restaurant an hour away from his office. These partial admissions are designed to seem like honesty while still concealing the affair. Then there's the complexity smokescreen. He makes the explanation so complex and convoluted that you get confused trying to follow it. It's complicated. She was going through something and asked me for help, which is why we met up, but I didn't tell you because I knew you'd misunderstand. And yes, we texted a lot, but it was all about her situation, and I was going to tell you eventually, but the timing never seemed right. And honestly, you've been so stressed with work that I didn't want to burden you. See what he did there? He overwhelmed you with details. So many details that you give up trying to understand and just accept his word. But here's the truth. Real truth is usually simple. Lies require elaborate explanations. If his story needs that much setup and context to make sense, it's probably not true. Monica experienced this. She found hotel charges on their joint credit card. When she confronted her husband, he had an answer ready. It's not what it looks like. A colleague's flight got canceled and he needed a room, so I booked it for him and he paid me back in cash. It sounded plausible enough. But when Monica asked which colleague, her husband got vague. When she asked to see the cash repayment or Venmo transaction, he got defensive about her not trusting him after he gave her an explanation. She dropped it. She later found out he'd been taking his affair partner to that hotel monthly for 6 months. The colleague story was complete fiction, designed to sound just believable enough that she'd stop asking questions. Here's what he's really saying with, "It's not what it looks like." I need you to accept my version of events, even though the evidence suggests otherwise. What he's actually doing is buying time. Time to come up with better lies, time to delete more evidence, or time to let the situation blow over so you forget about it. So don't accept vague explanations. Ask for verifiable proof. Okay, if that's the context, show me the full text thread that proves it. Let me call this colleague to confirm your story. If this is innocent, you won't mind me seeing all of it, right? Watch what happens. If he's telling the truth, he'll show you. If he's lying, he'll get defensive about you not trusting him. Don't let his explanation override clear evidence. If what you saw was obvious and his explanation requires mental gymnastics to believe, trust what you saw. Test the consistency. Ask him to explain the situation again in a few days. If the story changes, you know he's lying. Truth doesn't change. Lies do. Response number 3. I was going to tell you. This response shows up when the evidence is so overwhelming that denial is impossible. He's caught. Completely, undeniably caught. And his Hail Mary response is, I was going to tell you. I was literally planning to have this conversation. I was going to come clean this weekend. Let's be very clear about what's happening here. He's trying to transform being caught into voluntary confession. He's attempting to get credit for honesty he never actually demonstrated. Think about the audacity of this. You discovered the affair through your own investigation or someone else told you. But now he's claiming he was about to tell you anyway, so really he was being honest all along. Just later, after more lying. The timeline is always conveniently close too. Not, I was going to tell you next month. It's always, I was about to tell you this week, or I was planning to sit you down tomorrow. Close enough that it seems plausible, but far enough that he never actually had to follow through. If he really was going to tell you, why didn't he tell you yesterday, last week, last month? Why did it take you finding evidence for him to suddenly be ready to confess? The answer is simple. He wasn't going to tell you. He got caught, and now he's trying to minimize the damage. Along with this claim comes the tortured soul performance. He emphasizes how guilty and conflicted he's been. I've been torn up about this. It's been eating me alive. I couldn't sleep because I felt so guilty. He wants you to feel sorry for him and his emotional struggle with the betrayal that he inflicted on you. Let that sink in. He wants sympathy for feeling guilty about hurting you. One woman's husband pulled this after she found out about a 3-month affair. He said he'd been planning to tell her that very week because he couldn't live with the guilt anymore. But he'd just booked a vacation with her for the following month. He'd been making future plans, acting normal, lying to her face daily. Clearly, he was planning to keep the affair going indefinitely. The guilt only became unbearable once he got caught. Here's the test. If guilt was truly eating him alive, he could have confessed any day over the past weeks or months. He had endless opportunities. He chose not to take any of them until he was forced to. That tells you everything about whether this confession is voluntary or coerced. Watch for the partial confession strategy within this response. He admits to what you already have evidence for, while claiming that's the full extent. Yes, I kissed her once, and I was going to tell you about it, even though the affair was physical and ongoing for months. He's hoping you'll be satisfied with the partial admission and not dig deeper. Rachel saw this clearly. She discovered her boyfriend's affair when the other woman messaged her directly with proof, texts, photos, everything. When Rachel confronted him, he said, I'm actually relieved you know. I've been planning to tell you for weeks because I couldn't live with the guilt anymore. I was just trying to find the right time. But Rachel thought about it. They had just celebrated their anniversary. They'd taken a vacation together 2 weeks ago. They talked about moving in together 3 days before the affair was exposed. He'd had countless right times to confess. He chose not to use any of them. He wasn't going to confess. He was caught and scrambling to control the narrative. So here's what I was going to tell you really means. I need to do damage control now that I'm caught, and claiming I was about to confess makes me look less guilty. What he's actually doing is trying to maintain your trust and avoid full accountability by framing this as him struggling with guilt rather than you catching him in betrayal. So reject the moral credit immediately. You weren't going to tell me. You got caught. Those are not the same thing. Point out the timeline. You've had weeks to tell me. You chose not to every day. This confession isn't voluntary. It's forced. Demand full disclosure right now. If you are really going to be honest now. Show me your phone, give me her name, tell me everything. No more waiting for the right time. And watch closely. If he's still lying, minimizing, or withholding information even after the "I was going to tell you" claim, he's not being honest. He's managing the situation to minimize consequences. Before we get to response number 4, if you're recognizing these tactics and realizing you've been manipulated during a confrontation, hit that subscribe button. We break down the psychology of relationship manipulation so you can protect yourself and make decisions from clarity, not confusion. All right, let's keep going. Response number 4. It didn't mean anything. It was a mistake. When denial is no longer possible and he has to admit the affair happened, many cheaters pivot to minimization. It didn't mean anything. It was purely physical. She means nothing to me. It was just a mistake. This response is designed to make the betrayal seem small, insignificant, and therefore more forgivable. But let's break down what he's really doing here. He's asking you to measure the betrayal by his feelings for her rather than by his actions toward you. He's implying that because she supposedly meant nothing to him, the affair shouldn't mean much to you either. That's manipulation. Whether it meant something to him is completely irrelevant to the fact that it meant betrayal, dishonesty, and broken trust to you. So when he says it didn't mean anything, what you should hear is, "I risked our entire relationship, destroyed your trust, and betrayed you for something I'm now claiming was meaningless." If anything, that makes it worse. It means he threw away everything you built together for something he claimed had no value. How is that supposed to make you feel better?
Then there's the mistake framing. He calls what happened a mistake. I made a mistake. It was one mistake and I regret it. But let's be very clear about something. Mistakes are accidental. Forgetting to call is a mistake. Leaving the lights on is a mistake. Miscommunicating about dinner plans is a mistake. Cheating is not a mistake. It's a series of hundreds of deliberate choices. He chose to start talking to her. He chose to keep talking to her. He chose to meet up with her. He chose to lie to you about where he was. He chose to hide texts. He chose to continue this over days, weeks, or months. Every single one of those was an active, intentional decision. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. And calling it a mistake is linguistic manipulation designed to make you think it was an accident, rather than the result of deliberate actions. Watch for the emotional versus physical false distinction. Some men say, "It was just sex, there were no feelings," as if that makes the betrayal better. Others say, "It was just emotional, nothing physical happened," minimizing emotional affairs. Here's the truth. Both are betrayals. The distinction doesn't change that fundamental fact. He's trying to make you focus on what type of cheating it was, instead of the fact that he cheated at all. Then there's the comparison minimization. At least I didn't fall in love with her. At least it was only once. At least I didn't give her money. It could have been worse. He's asking you to be grateful the betrayal wasn't as bad as it could have been. He's shifting your focus from what he actually did to what he didn't do, making the actual betrayal seem minor by comparison. Any sentence that starts with "at least" when discussing infidelity is minimization. It's an attempt to make you lower your standards for what's acceptable and be thankful the betrayal was only this bad instead of worse. Jennifer experienced this after discovering her husband's year-long affair. He told her, "It didn't mean anything. It was just physical. I never had feelings for her. It was a mistake I deeply regret." And Jennifer said something brilliant. She said, "You're telling me you risked our marriage, lied to me for a year, and destroyed my trust for something that meant nothing to you? That actually makes it worse. It means you threw away everything we built for something you're now saying was meaningless. And it wasn't a mistake. A mistake is taking the wrong exit on the highway. You made hundreds of deliberate choices to betray me." That's exactly right. His minimization was an attempt to escape full accountability, not a genuine apology or explanation. Here's what "it didn't mean anything" really means. I need you to downgrade your emotional response to match my downgraded framing of what I did. What he's actually doing is avoiding full accountability by minimizing the significance of his betrayal. And if you accept this minimization, he's learned that he can betray you and escape serious consequences by simply claiming it didn't mean anything. So reject the minimization directly.
Whether it meant something to you doesn't change what it did to me and to our relationship. Call out the language. This wasn't a mistake. Mistakes are accidental. You made deliberate choices over and over to betray me. Refuse the comparison game. I'm not comparing your cheating to worse cheating. I'm addressing the cheating that actually happened. Name the manipulation. You're trying to minimize what you did, so I'll minimize my pain. That's not how this works. And focus on actions, not his feelings. I don't care if she meant nothing to you. Your action showed I meant nothing to you during every moment you chose her over honesty with me. If this response hit home and you're realizing you accepted minimization when you should have demanded accountability, check out our video on the 5 signs he's genuinely remorseful versus just sorry he got caught. Link in the description. It'll help you determine if this relationship can actually be saved. But first, response number 5, because this is the most toxic one of all. Response 5. You drove me to this, or this is actually your fault. This is perhaps the most damaging response because it completely transfers moral responsibility from him to you. Instead of taking accountability for his choice to cheat, he blames you for it. He'll list your supposed failures and shortcomings, the ways you didn't meet his needs, the things you did wrong that supposedly left him no choice but to cheat. You pushed me away. You never gave me attention. You're always working. You gained weight. You stopped being affectionate. You don't appreciate me. He creates a narrative where your behavior caused his infidelity, where he's actually the victim of your failures and cheating was an inevitable consequence of how you treated him. This is blame shifting at its most toxic, and it's designed to accomplish 2 things: make you feel guilty for his betrayal and distract from the fact that he made a choice that he's fully responsible for. Listen to how he frames it. My needs weren't being met in this relationship. I was lonely. I needed something you couldn't give me. Now, unmet needs are legitimate relationship issues. If someone's needs aren't being met, that's something that should be addressed. But here's what makes this response manipulation. Adults in healthy relationships communicate their needs. They say, I'm feeling disconnected and I need more quality time with you. They suggest couples counseling. They have difficult conversations about what's not working. They don't stay silent about their unhappiness, cheat, and then claim unmet needs as justification after getting caught. That's not how functional adults handle relationship problems. That's how manipulators escape accountability. One woman's husband told her he cheated because she wasn't affectionate enough. But when she asked when he'd communicated this to her, he couldn't answer. He'd never once said he needed more affection, never suggested they work on their physical connection, never brought it up in any conversation. He went straight from silent dissatisfaction to affair, then blamed her for not reading his mind and fixing a problem she didn't know existed. Watch for the retroactive relationship devaluation too. Suddenly he claims the relationship has been bad for years or we've grown apart. And this is complete news to you. You thought things were fine, or at least workable. But now he's rewriting history to make the affair seem like a reasonable response to a failing relationship. If the relationship was so bad, he had options: communicate, seek counseling, or leave. He chose deception instead. That tells you this isn't really about the relationship being bad. It's about him not wanting to be accountable. Lisa experienced this exactly. When she discovered her husband's affair, he said, "You're always at work. You stopped making me a priority. I felt invisible in my own home. What did you expect me to do?" Lisa felt terrible. She had been working a lot. They'd agreed she'd take this demanding job to support the family while he went back to school. But suddenly, that agreed-upon plan was being used against her as justification for his betrayal. He was rewriting their shared history to avoid accountability. Here's what "you drove me to this" really means. I need you to believe you're partially responsible for my betrayal so you won't hold me fully accountable. What he's actually doing is manipulating you into apologizing to him for his betrayal of you. And if you accept this blame, you'll spend all your energy trying to fix yourself instead of demanding he be accountable for his choices.
So reject the blame immediately. My behavior doesn't justify your choice to cheat. If you had problems with our relationship, you should have communicated them, suggested counseling, or left, not betrayed me. Call out the retroactive rewrite. You're claiming the relationship has been terrible, but that's news to me. You're rewriting our history to justify your affair. Demand separation of issues. Yes, we can discuss relationship problems if this relationship continues, but first we're discussing your cheating, which was your choice, regardless of any issues we had. Watch for but apologies and reject them. That's not an apology, that's blame shifting. And most importantly, don't apologize for his betrayal. If you catch yourself saying, "I'm sorry I drove you to this," or "I should have been better," stop immediately. You didn't drive him to anything. He made choices. He's responsible for those choices, not you. Let's recap what we covered. Response 1. You're being paranoid, insecure, or crazy. He's gaslighting you to make you doubt yourself instead of holding him accountable. Response 2. It's not what it looks like. He's asking you to trust his explanation over the evidence your own eyes can see. Response 3. I was going to tell you. He's trying to get credit for honesty he never demonstrated voluntarily. Response 4. It didn't mean anything. He's minimizing the betrayal to reduce your pain response and escape consequences. And response 5. You drove me to this. He's transferring moral responsibility from himself to you for his choice to cheat. Here's what you need to understand. These responses have one goal: to get you to back down, accept less than the truth, and take on responsibility that isn't yours. When you confront a cheater, you're not the one on trial. He is. Don't let him flip the script and make you defend yourself for having legitimate concerns. Don't let him make you feel crazy for trusting evidence. Don't let him minimize betrayal or blame you for his choices. If you heard any of these responses when you confronted him, you now know what they really mean. The question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge? Are you going to accept his deflections, or are you going to demand real accountability? You deserve someone who owns their mistakes without gaslighting, minimizing, or blaming you. Anything less than that isn't remorse, it's manipulation. If this video helped you see through the manipulation and recognize these tactics for what they are, subscribe to this channel. We break down the psychology of relationship manipulation so you can protect yourself and make decisions from clarity, not confusion. Drop a comment telling me which response you heard when you confronted him. Which phrase did he use, and did it work on you at the time? Sometimes sharing helps you see how common these tactics are and that you're not alone in experiencing them. And in the next video, we're covering the 5 signs he's genuinely remorseful versus the 5 signs he's just sorry he got caught. Because there's a massive difference, and knowing which one you're dealing with determines whether the relationship can be saved. You need to see that. You are not crazy for having concerns. You are not insecure for wanting truth. You are not the problem for refusing to accept manipulation as explanation. Trust yourself. You confronted him for a reason, and these deflections are proof your instincts were right all along.